I once lived in an apartment that I'm sure was haunted. It was actually my next door neighbor, a senior citizen, who came and told me she thought there was a ghost there. The ghost made noises that were completely unexplainable, that were so loud she could hear them too. It got so bad she had her son come and stay with her. He was an ex-con, 6'2", big, tough, and scary himself. One morning, after a very bad night with the noises, he came over to actually check if I was okay. He was literally as white as a sheet and scared badly. He said he couldn't take it anymore and his mother was too scared. They moved within a month. I stayed, and it got so bad, I actually put my toddler son in the room with me at night. He would keep saying he saw someone coming out of the closet every time I would go in his room. I swear, I would always see something black out of the corner of my eye around his closet. I felt it was beginning to affect us both, physically and mentally. Every time you would walk into the apartment, it felt as if something was very wrong. We finally moved. I have since noticed that no one lives in that apartment for a very, very long time. I never really believed in ghosts until I lived there. My story takes place in the sleepy town of Montsville, West Virginia. We are home to the West Virginia Penitentiary. During grade school, I spent most of my weekends at my friend Emily's house. Emily lived next door to her grandmother, Nina, who had several medical issues. Nina's house was the same house Emily's mother had grown up in. The house always had a strange feeling to it. Lights would turn on and off, footsteps and whispers could be heard, but none of that fazed me. The only thing that did scare me was the attic. The attic was finished, but had the death smell to it, like an abandoned building. It was always cold, despite the hot air that would rise from the floors above. The attic contained 4 small rooms, which were bedrooms when Emily's mother and siblings were children. The rooms contained little knickknacks from the mother's childhood. One room was entirely devoted to dolls, which I always found terrifying. One day, Emily and I were playing in the attic with some of the old toys in the doll room. We heard Nina call for us for lunch, so we placed the rag dolls we were playing with back in the shelf in the room. Right before we left the attic, we heard something fall on the floor. Curious, we went back into the doll room and saw that the middle doll from the shelf had fallen off. I, myself, had put the doll back in its place, and there was no way it could have fallen like it did. A little spooked, I picked up the doll and put it back on the shelf. Later on that day, Emily and I were playing in the woods near to the house. I squatted down to pick up a pretty stone I found on the forest floor. When I went down, I felt something poking me in my pocket. I put my hand in the pocket, and I found 2 doll eyes in my pocket. The eyes from the doll I had picked up earlier that day. Needless to say, I have been terrified of dolls ever since. My mom told me that when her family moved into her childhood home, she would hear children's voices at night as she lay in bed. At first, she thought she was dreaming or that children were playing outside. She looked out of her window, but it was in the middle of the night and she didn't see anyone outside. One night, she left her closet door open and it slammed shut. She became afraid and would run to her parents' bed, but they didn't believe her. This went on for years. A few years later, my mom asked a neighbor who had lived in the house before. The neighbor said another family lived there, but moved after the young daughter died of an illness in the house. My mom thinks the spirit of the little girl who died made all of those noises.